Yo, it's Trav again, and Bias with you back on another episode, the 20th episode of the Sports Bag Bros podcast. If you didn't know about it, you do know now. And as you saw the thumbnail, we're going to get right to it. Look at that, the long weekend. And as usual, we like the shows that happen after a long weekend of sports because we can talk about it all. So many things have happened, the NBA in particular, boxing happened, baseball happened. We'll get around to it. But if you saw the thumbnail, you know what that's all about. We're going to talk about what happened with ESPN, the bloodletting, all of the bodies that have been falling out of the building up there in Bristol, Connecticut. No longer. They may splinter and go other places. But let's talk about that right now before we get down to some NBA free agency where a bunch of money has been going places. But before that, Bias, let them know what's up.
What's up, YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcasts. We're back. As Trav mentioned, a lot happened over the weekend and Friday, NBA free agency, and people let go from ESPN. It's unfortunate for them and their careers, but I'm sure ESPN has a plan, and we'll see what happens next.
Well, with that being said, let's get around to it. ESPN let go some of the biggest personalities they've had. A lot of people we know, obviously prominent because they were the forefront of ESPN. Obviously, the biggest name and biggest salary of them all when you're talking about a price dump was not let go, and that's Stephen A. Smith, probably the most prominent of all. But among the names that were let go, Max Kellerman, he did everything. He did the boxing. He talked about basketball, football. He did a lot of the different things, and I guess to justify the salary he was getting, you had to do all of those things. And then there was Keyshawn Johnson, the former NFL wide receiver. He was let go, so he had a big contract as well. At least they thought so. I think a move that probably some people didn't think about initially, Jalen Rose, the basketball analyst who's been there for about 10 years. He used to be part of the Fab Five. If you know anything about college basketball, you got a chance to see him come up through there, go to the NBA. Now he was doing this for the past 10 years. And Jeff Van Gundy is another surprise. He's one of the better analysts, if not the best analyst, with their NBA coverage, and he was let go. But once again, this was a price dump. So they start from the top. They start with the people with the biggest salaries, and then they work their way down. And Jay Will, another one who played for Duke, played in the NBA for a little while, had the injury, as we know, or accident, didn't continue to play, but he was let go as well. Finally, in terms of the smaller names, if not necessarily small names, Susie Colbert, who used to be a big name with ESPN, not as big anymore as her role obviously has been diminished from what it once was. I think it's more because she's more of a family woman now. She's been married, has children. She's not spending all of her time speaking sports anymore on ESPN. Some of the other names that are out there to kind of throw out, Steve Young and boxer, former champion and Hall of Famer Andre Ward will let go. So there are other names, but those are the names we're throwing out there right now. Bias, you watched ESPN before. I've watched it. We've all watched it if we're interested in sports like that. As fanatical as we may be, do you have any opinions on the names as they will let go? Why, or do you care, or whatever your opinions are on this? Starting off with, I guess, Max Kellerman.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised about Max being let go. He seemed to be in good standing there. He's been there, as you mentioned, a long time. And I don't think he was doing a bad job. Maybe the ratings weren't as what ESPN needed, wanted, expected. And that's why he was let go along with Keyshawn and Jay Will. But it's going to be interesting. They let go of so many people. How are they going to fill all those time slots now?
Well, from what I can see, ESPN's numbers have been dropping precipitously for quite some time now. And I tell you what, I think something other than sports is what lent itself to that. And as you may or may not know, or you probably would know right now, especially in today's climate, they added a little bit too much politics to their sports. People get turned off by politics sometimes, regardless of which side of the aisle you're on. People get tired of hearing politics all of the time, especially in this climate when you have a bunch of finger pointing, you have people who can't even agree to disagree. They just have their extremes and they're willing to fight through it. Well, I go to sports to get away from that. And then when they bring that into that area, you can't get away from it. Then you kind of tune out, and the numbers kind of show that that's what was happening. And now when it comes to the money that they need to cut because, well, Pat McAfee signing his $85 million 5-year deal. Well, they start with those people first, the big salaries and maybe the bigger problems.
Uh, that's true. I'm surprised about Van Gundy, but probably he may have gotten word, or ESPN may have gotten word from Adam Silver that he's too honest. He tells it too much like it is. You know, when there's phantom fouls being called or just things that are going on that seem kind of strange, he comments on it. And I don't, you know, Adam Silver, I mentioned before, I'm starting to call him no balls Adam Silver
Oh yeah.
because he definitely doesn't have David Stern's balls. But I'm sure Adam Silver doesn't want anybody questioning his product.
Yeah, but you know what? You can't have what you call objective people on the television as your personalities, and then when they show their objectivity, there's a problem. But of course, you know, things can be said, and then you still want them done a certain way, regardless of what you really said. You know, you kind of wink, wink. We want you to be honest, but not too honest. And I think that might have been the case. But I think he might have been the only one who was let go because of sports or because of what he was doing. I think the other ones were price dumps, and it might have had something to do with their social standings. And once again, I don't want to hear about politics while I'm listening to sports. I get away from politics by listening to sports. Only on occasion when sports and social events kind of intertwine and politics makes their way into it, I wouldn't mind then. I'd at least have some type of intrigue when it comes down to something like that. But I know you hear some of the things Jalen Rose has said in the past, when just last year he was talking about the U.S. should be ashamed of sending, they were ashamed of sending an all-black team to the Olympics because Kevin Love was there. Ridiculous nonsense, race-baiting crap like that. People get tired of hearing it. And I guess when everything comes to a head and you have to make decisions, you don't just think about the salaries. You wonder about the salaries and the matching personalities and words that might have been said. You know, the greater of two evils, you want to cut that out. And I think as far as that goes, yeah, I don't want race pimps either. That's probably why he's out as well.
Yeah, I can see that. I think there's just so many things going on in this world that sometimes sports personalities feel that they need to speak on it. You know, we're living in crazy times right now. The Supreme Court comes out with this verdict, another verdict, and people just feel the need to have to speak on it. Now, Jalen Rose saying that about Kevin Love, it's not like they took Brian Scalabrine, you know, White Mamba. Kevin Love is a very good player. He's been a very good player. And I can't say he didn't deserve to be on that team.
Yeah,
That was
you know what? I think he's done enough in the NBA throughout the time he's been there to where even if he didn't deserve it statistically, he deserved it because of what he's done over all these years. If you want to call it a culmination of a lifetime achievement award to go represent your country in the Olympics, why not? You know what I mean? To make it a racial issue or push it towards that narrative, that is so annoying because we hear it with so many things today. Everything is racial. It can't just be simply a problem that relates to itself. It has to have some type of racial connotation to it. And we see too much of that right now. Now, Keyshawn Johnson was let go as well. But as you mentioned already, these people will have decent opportunities. You know, they're going to be okay, I believe. They're not going to be on the soup line anytime soon. $5 million contracts and $5 million. I think Keyshawn's owed $18 million because or close to it because he just signed his new contract last year. And you know what? With Shannon Sharp leaving F1 with Skip Bayless, undisputed, you may have a door that's wide open for Keyshawn Johnson. Keyshawn Johnson has that personality. He kind of tells it like it is. He sticks to his guns. And you know, he's entertaining.
yeah, a lot of more candidates out there to replace Shannon Sharp. I say I want Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark's a very intelligent person, and he's not going to be as passionate or raise his voice like Shannon Sharp did, but he will put Skip in his place intelligently. And
Yeah,
I
but
know Skip don't want that. That's why he won't be the one, but
yeah,
I would
Skip,
love to see it.
yeah, Skip might not like it. And I tell you what, I don't know if the people who look, we're in a car wreck society. They want to see the car wreck. Whoever can scream the loudest and say something you agree with, it's something you're probably going to be entertained with. And I think that's what would happen if you had someone like Keyshawn Johnson. Ryan Clark, like you said, kind of laid back, but he's still going to stick to his guns. They don't need that. They need the straight man, but the straight man with a loud voice like Keyshawn Johnson. I mean, not saying that he'll get the job. I mean,
Me personally, I don't want to see guys going back and forth just yelling. I, I want to see somebody get schooled intelligently, verbally.
yeah.
And that's what Ryan Clark would do to Skip Bayless.
And Keyshawn can actually do that himself. The deal is that that's what we're in right now. I mean, just now in New York, they kind of shifted what they've been doing at WFAN. They have guys who like to scream, and now they got two guys who like to scream together when they start their new lineup later in July. I mean, that, and I haven't been around the rest of the country to see how they're doing their radio these days, but I'm sure a lot of those kinds of personalities trying to scream and get your point across is what people kind of gotten used to. It's the new normal. If you didn't do it, they kind of look at you wondering what's wrong with your show. But Susie Colbert is like the last one I wanted to talk about with this. Steve Young was let go, but Susie Colbert, because she's been around for so long, and I remember seeing her at NFL drafts as I covered drafts in the past, several drafts in the past. I've seen them most of the time. And she was one of those people you thought they wouldn't let go because she's a woman. We're in this age too, because you're a woman, you may get more benefits than you deserve. I still think it comes down to her being married, not seeing her as often as of the past couple of years, and being a family woman. So letting her go probably is not a big deal to them. I just noticed that she was one of these linchpin people that were at ESPN for decades.
It just seems when it comes to the women on ESPN, there seems to be like a revolving door. Rachel Nichols, Michelle Beadle, Carrie Champion. They just spend a few years there and then they replace them.
Yeah. How about Malika Andrews? This is somebody, if I had a chance to push out the door in light of the things she's been doing for a while now, why wasn't she replaced? Why wasn't Perkins replaced? Big Perk. They say things that not everyone likes. I mean, maybe they like that barnstorm that comes when those types of things happen. But yeah, I mean, if you wanted to just let the fans pick who needs to leave, I think you probably have those two up there. They need to leave.
Yeah, it was just time for them to go.
Well, you know what? ESPN needing the money? Nah, not really. They got the $85 million man, Pat McAfee. And I'll tell you, going back to your first point about, kind of saying, him being there is probably the reason why they're going to have to get rid of these salaries. I think that's a consensus, I guess, with people thinking about that. When in reality, Pat McAfee built his reputation and his brand on YouTube. It's not that he doesn't need that extra money that he's going to now get from ESPN, which I believe is $25 million a year. He's bringing his people over there, so they're definitely going to have an opportunity, ESPN, to make even more money now, theoretically. Because if you really break it down to him and all of those who will let go, if he's already bringing an audience of millions himself just because of who he is and the brand he's built, he replaces all of them easily and brings in more money. You pay one salary to him. He brings in all of his people. They're going to get a whole boatload back without having to pay all of these people. They just let go. He's a one-stop shop and a money machine.
Yeah, I see. He's not happy. He's getting blamed for everybody being let go. And he's trying to tell people it's not his fault. He didn't have anything to do with it. It may not be his fault. ESPN may think otherwise, but we'll see how they set him up there. And, he's got a big following, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, well, that's business. Business 101 is that you may be out of business in 101 time. So that's what happens at ESPN, a whole bunch of money being cut, money being made, and they're hoping to make more. A lot more money like what just happened this past weekend. Just a little while after the NBA season had ended with the new champions, the Denver Nuggets being the new champions, we now have a lottery. Well, not college kids this time around. The lottery in which the veterans who are already on rosters are now getting paid. Not only are they getting paid, you're talking over $1 billion worth of contracts, man. 260 million per person in some cases. And
I know the NBA, their revenue sharing is 48% with the players, and they make so much money. But some of these guys are getting paid, and they can barely make an open jumper. I mean, 80 million for Dylan Brooks.
And they said he's making 10 times more than what Russell Westbrook is making. With $8 million for 2 years, this guy's making 80.
Desmond Bain's a good player, but over 200 million? Please. He never made an all-star game. But I mean, that's the world we're living in. You know, their minimum wage is way up there now. So, you, you know,
Bro.
people are getting paid crazy salaries, and we just have to get used to it, I guess, because the NBA has so much money, and they have to pay these players, even though a lot of the players aren't worth what they're getting.
It's unbelievable the types of money these guys are getting now. I saw the first huge contract, Tyrese Halliburton from the Indiana Pacers. You know, you see, he got his money. He deserves it because he's one of the younger guards, and he could be somebody who actually leads them somewhere. He just needs more pieces added around him. I think Obi Toppin from the Knicks, who wasn't getting his opportunities, but has a boatload of talent, could be one of those guys. I heard there's a trade between New York and Indiana that may just make its way, you know, to Halliburton and add to what he needs to in order to get this thing jumped off. I mean, Indiana's been a good team in the past, and we know about the Reggie Millers and all that type of stuff, but I think they can get back there with that type of guy. So money well spent. And another thing it comes down to, the teams that pay this kind of money, you have to be valuable to them. That's it. No one else. If they think, even if they're overpaying, if they believe that this is the value that you bring to their team, they're going to give you that money. I mean, the same thing in the NFL and Major League Baseball. We can look at it and think that there's just no way. We try to figure it out. And especially if it's not one of these prominent, big-time guys getting that kind of money, some way, rhyme or reason, some GM, some owner believes that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, and speaking directly to Houston, I have to question them bringing in Dylan Brooks with, you know, the young players they're bringing in through the draft and they already have on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan Brooks is the guy they want to mentor their young players. I don't know.
I mean, I have no idea in a lot of cases because, you know, the numbers just got so astronomical. And it wasn't even just the max contracts of the 260 million, which you've seen just popping up one after the other. Is the other contracts, like, you know, you talk about a Dylan Brooks and the kind of money he's getting. I mean, and Desmond Bain, the kind of money he's getting. He's not a bad guy, but how do you justify that kind of money? You know, and by the way, I think the last time we were on here, since then, Derrick Rose has now become a member of the Memphis Grizzlies. So, you know, we could talk about Desmond Bain, we could talk about Derrick Rose, and then you obviously are going to talk about Ja Morant, what he means to the team, what he may not mean to the team. I mean, these salaries, though, again, it's going to keep coming back to them. Draymond Green, one of the guys we spoke about last week as well. Now I think it's the writing's on the wall, and we already know the reason why they were able to let Jordan Poole go, because upper management and the ownership believe he was the problem. They bring back Draymond Green, give him $100 million for 4 years. All gamesmanship. He wasn't going anywhere to begin with.
Yeah, I believe that as well. Who else was going to give him 25 million a year? And where would he fit? You know, we discussed that in a couple of episodes. But why then did Dunleavy Jr. go out and sign another point guard? Does he know CP3 is not going to be available half of the season or in the playoffs? Why trade for CP3 and then go sign up another point guard? I don't get it.
Well, look at the point guard he got. Was it Corey Joseph from the Pistons? I mean, he's not really a threat, you know, but, you know, he could be a stopgap guy knowing what's going on with CP3 with his injuries and his age and more injuries and unreliability when you need him. I mean, Corey Joseph is somebody that's not going to cause problems. He's not going to cry about getting playing time.
I'm just saying, you trade for CP3 and one of your first two moves is signing Draymond and signing another point guard. That makes no sense. Nothing Dunleavy's doing is making sense to me. I don't get it. But whatever. Like I said, their championship window is closed unless they get a big man to help defensively. Yeah. Their defense struggled last year, and I don't see it getting any better. So until they address that, their championship window is closed.
Well, we'll just have to wait till the season starts and see how they come together, mesh together. This time around, the locker room should be a little more peaceful as opposed to last year when there was fifth flying in the locker room, and we saw that it was kind of bothering the team throughout the entire year. And we'll find out what's going on in Golden State. And before we find out what's going on in Golden State, we need to go on to the Milwaukee Bucks. Chris Middleton another guy who turned down his $40 million option, and now he gets 3 years and $102 million himself. Good play. Less money per year, but at least it's more than 1 year he's getting that money now. There's some security there.
Yeah, and to me, I think he's getting underpaid compared to everybody else.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean,
he has a ring.
He delivered. He contributed to their championship mightily. You know, Chris Middleton is a stud. He only gets 102 million. Dylan Brooks almost got that. Bain got over 200 million. Anthony Edwards over 200 million. Now he has a lot of upside still, but you know he was questionable in that playing game.
Yeah. But you know, unbelievable, man. I mean, now you got young kids out there who probably was kind of figure skating, decide they want to try to become basketball players. You know, if they were 8 years old, now they want to get on the basketball court, become AAU stars. They see what's going on. Their parents are making them do it. They're not even doing it. Their parents want them to do it. And then LaMelo Ball, another one, which I can agree with if you're going to max someone out. I think he's your franchise player. Why not max him out? See, obviously.
Yeah, I agree with that one too.
Maxing out should go to franchise player. He is the franchise player. Max him out. I mean, Desmond Bain, not 260, but 206 is still too much. 207.
Maybe Memphis is just happy he's not off the court, giving them off the court troubles. You know.
Yeah.
Or Derrick Rose, you know, those first 25 games, they're going to rely on him a lot. They're going to expect a lot from him. Let's hope his knees hold up.
I think it was a good deal to pick him up only because of the mentorship role. I mean, he hadn't played since January of last season. So whenever he gets his opportunity, which should be, if he doesn't get injured, which should be when the NBA season starts, it'll be the first time he's played live basketball in a real game that's not an exhibition since last January 2023. But his mentorship, I think, is just as important because he's been a stand-up guy. And this is a guy who's been in a situation where there were real thugs he was dealing with when he's coming up in Chicago. He's dealt with real dissension. He's dealt with real life and death situations, family members, neighborhood-wise. So he can be that guy in the locker room to tell the wannabe thug, yo, this isn't the way to do it. Because all the time Derrick Rose has been in the NBA, he's never come across as that kind of guy. You know, one of these guys, I'm from Chicago, I'm just a tough dude, bad dude. Never came across as that kind of guy. He's always been a respectable dude. I mean, he had some things that went on every now and then with the family, but he's always been that guy that took care of his business on the court. And I think the biggest and best move Memphis did was getting him if they want to help out Ja Morant, not just giving him dollars and cents and just suspending him. Someone like Derrick Rose helps.
Yeah, but you know, D Rose, he's always been kind of to himself. I don't know if he's really going to be hanging out with Ja or taking him under.
Just talk to him.
His wing, you know, maybe this will be a positive for him. Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, just talk to him. I mean, you could talk to him in the locker room.
But,
all that time you spend together.
But I don't see D Rose hanging out with Ja Morant off the court. That I don't see that happening.
And that's probably true and probably likely. I think with them, you have 82 games in the season, and so they're going to be around each other pretty often. I mean, even if it's just in the locker room or practice, this is something you could talk to a guy about. You don't got to go to the next club or go to the club with him at all, or go to the firing range, whether it's in the gym or outside. You don't got to do that with him. You just got to be around, show him how a professional is supposed to act, and then take it from there.
That's true. But hey, going to the firing range, there's nothing wrong with that.
I know, but not when it's in the gym. Come on now.
That's not the firing range, though.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a firing range in his car. He still had to pull out of the gun like he wanted to be at a firing range.
Well, we know that. I'm just speaking to the firing range.
I know. The deal is, Ja, I think this was a great move in terms of all of the talk we're talking about, all of these huge salaries, that this kind of thing was pretty cool, that Derrick Rose came in to look at the silver lining in that move, outside of him not being able to play the way he was once able to play, is that he could probably be that kind of mentor to Ja along the way, and he's going to need it. So we've already talked about Chris Middleton getting his money, a championship guy, and you say he's underpaid, especially in the light of now. I mean, he could get.
What do you think about the Lakers' moves?
Well, the Lakers, I'm telling you what, though, the moves. First of all, the Austin Reeves. What are all these rumors we kept hearing about Austin Reeves? You know, about him going somewhere, this and that. They try to make it seem like a woman. He's going to Houston. Next minute, he's probably going somewhere else. I think the Lakers, the West period, based on what's going on right now, is going to be a little tougher. It's going to be a little tougher for Denver. They still have their team in place for the most part. Bruce Brown at left. But I think the Lakers are in a pretty solid spot. It's just a matter of, can old people hang? Does LeBron finally get hurt a lot this year? Does Anthony Davis, stays Anthony Davis and stays hurt? I mean, what are the Lakers? What else do they have right now?
Yeah, I was just curious how you felt about it. I think they made some good moves.
Mhm.
My question is, there's only one basketball, and out of all those guys they signed, who's going to step up? You can't have a deep roster full of average players. Someone has to step up.
Yeah,
Is it going to be Reeves? Is it going to be Hachimura?
another big
Again,
contract.
is Russell going to be up and down like he was, 25 this game, 2 for 17 the next game? Someone's going to have to provide some consistency because at some point, AD is going to miss some games.
Yeah.
You mentioned LeBron getting injured. LeBron's going to miss some games, whether he gets injured or not. He load manages. He's been load managing for 15 years.
I tell you what, with LeBron, I'm wondering, is this the year he could see that he might want to defer, because he didn't play last year as if he was deferring to anyone. He still wanted to be the alpha dog. And with Anthony
He
Davis,
was going for the record.
yeah, that's true. But does he still have that desire? Because the next step, I guess, in his NBA career outside of a championship is playing with his son, which is still a possibility if he could come out of USC doing well enough to get drafted. I wonder, you would think from a competitor standpoint, you don't ever want to defer. You always want to show that you could still play. But I think right now, he could probably realize that I'm not that guy anymore, and I don't have really anything to prove other than trying to get another championship. And will he defer to some of these younger guys? I mean, they got to get their experience. And AD, as you know, is going to miss time. And these younger guys will be able to get their opportunities. But when they get their opportunities, do they fall out of the top? Do they fall out of wherever they are? Are they better or not, when they get their opportunity?
The one move I do question is Gabe Vincent. Not everybody, but I've been hearing how great of a signing it was. Did they not see him disappear in the finals? I mean, I didn't know they found him. He was missing in action in the finals. Oh, yeah, he had a great series against Boston. Had a great quarter here, game 2 or whatever. But what else did he do?
Yeah, I guess when you look at the body of work, I guess you would like to believe that it isn't all about one game or one series, that it would be a body of work that you've seen for a couple of years and feel that he can get back to it, that it might have been a bit of a glitch. How many opportunities is he going to get to go to the playoffs and make his mistakes or become a star player? I think it comes down to more of that than it does.
Now played by Bruce Brown.
Well, hey, Bruce Brown played pretty well this year. I mean, in the playoffs at least, but he should.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Bruce Brown came off the bench and outplayed Gabe Vincent.
Yeah. Well, what are these NBA people thinking? I mean, we're looking at the money going to people who, in our opinion, don't deserve as much as they're getting. I mean, astronomical numbers. It has nothing to do with inflation. It's what they believe these players are worth at this moment. And I don't know, these GMs make these moves based on what they believe is going to be helpful. I mean, heck, Dunleavy making his moves. He believes he's doing the right thing. We don't, at least right now, until it shows out on the court.
His team's getting smaller, and they were too small last year already.
And it needed some center help forever.
Right. But as far as LeBron deferring, I don't think he'd have a problem with it. If those guys are knocking down shots and he gets 10 to 12 assists a night, I think he'll be perfectly happy. You average 15, 10, and 7 or whatever. He'll be happy with that.
But do they win because of that? When they don't win, it's always going to come down on LeBron when the team doesn't win. Anthony Davis gets hurt. LeBron doesn't do what they believe he should do. They're upset with him. He can get 40 points when Anthony Davis is down and no help, and he'll be called a stat chaser. It's always something with him. I mean, seriously, it doesn't matter, man. This guy's trying to win a game. You call him a stat chaser. He's shooting the last second shot. Man, he's just trying to make the shot. If he missed a shot, you're going to gig on him forever. It's just the way it goes. He's one of those love-hate guys. And right now, quite a few hate him.
I think his fans bring it on him the most.
Well, his fans? You think
Yes, yes.
in terms of high expectations, even at this
No,
age?
in terms of the crazy talk that they run all
Oh
over
yeah,
social media.
yeah, we've seen it. I mean, unbelievable some of the
I
things they
mean,
say.
his fans they'll be like, LeBron's the first player in history to be wearing a headband, save the ball from going out of bounds, come down and make a layup, and cut the lead to one. I mean, they come up with the most ridiculous crap. Get out of here with that. Did he win or lose?
Yeah, exactly. And as of late, he has not won too many championships, and we'll find out about that as well as we talk about Wednesday's program. And tomorrow is the 4th of July. We'll be doing that show. And on Wednesday, we're going to come back and talk more about basketball. We're talking about the Denver Nuggets championship team against a litany of other teams in the recent past. So we'll be talking about that a whole lot come Wednesday. So just look forward to that. And with basketball kind of putting the lid on it, we're in the second phase of free agency. That opens the door to the boys of the summer, which are baseball players. Oh man, so much baseball going on, including the All-Star break in about 2 weeks. But no team is as hot as summer as the Atlanta Braves. I said it last week. I'm saying it again this week. Maybe not the best of record in baseball, but definitely the best team unequivocally, sweeping the Florida Marlins, who are hot on their own volition. Now it's them, and then led by Ronald Acuna, who's now has 38 stolen bases. Man, I'm all over the place, but wow, those Atlanta Braves, man. I mean,
He'll probably get 38 home runs before the year's
yeah,
up.
exactly. I don't see any reason why he shouldn't. What's even more interesting about it is how he's coming off a knee injury just 2-3 seasons ago. I watched him here in Jacksonville at a AAA game on assignment, rehab assignment, and the place was packed just because of him. But I was like, man, he's not too far removed from that. He's back in championship MVP form right now.
Yeah, the Braves are rolling, man. We talked on Thursday how the Marlins had a chance to cut into their lead. Yeah, right. Marlins fell back 3 games.
Oh my God.
Braves are rolling, man.
Yeah. I mean, they really put a whooping on them. I mean, if you're one of these teams out there that's winning more than you probably should, and people are wondering, man, if you're for real or not, play the Braves and we'll find out right away if you're legitimate or not. Because this past, and by the way, they have 8 players on the All-Star team, which is not a surprise now when you see the way they've been playing. I mean, now they've won 8 in a row, and they're just mowing teams over. And as of late, with the series that just ended against the Marlins, 29-7. That's the margin of victory, 29-7 in just 3 games. And this includes a shutout.
Right.
Wow.
And our boy Luis Arias, his average is down under 390 now.
Yeah, well,
That Braves pitching staff, man.
you know what? He got his 2 hits yesterday in the final game of the series. He got his 2 hits, so he brought it up to 389, just under 390. But man, it's unless things really pick up close, now he'll be going back to playing normal teams. And then after the All-Star break, he'll go back to playing against other teams outside of the Braves. He may be
He'll
able
probably
to
get another have another 5-hit game, and he'll be at 400 again.
Oh yeah, well he has 3 of them so far in the first half of the season. So if he could get a couple of 5-hit, man, we're talking like it's that easy. Just a couple of 5-hit games. That's all you got to do.
Do it again. You'll be there.
You'll be all right. Keep chasing 400. But the Braves right now, absolutely outstanding team. And Ohtani, talking about baseball, Mr. Baseball right now. You're talking about if there were an MVP just for baseball, he would be it. AL, NL, it wouldn't matter. He would be the MVP of the league.
I'm seeing some anti-Ohtani talk on social media. I don't get it. He's leading the league in home runs. He's leading the league in RBIs. He's like 3rd or 4th in average. If he freaking wins the Triple Crown and wins 15 to 18 games on the mound, what can you say? He would be the GOAT. He would be.
If I'm in the National League and I got my MVP, I give it to him because he's the MVP of the entire freaking baseball if he pulls something off like that. I mean, what he's doing now is obviously unprecedented. I think some people may be upset because he's doing it because, I don't know, they're baseball purists. If you were a baseball purist, you would like a person batting up and pitching because it happened before when baseball was pure. I think they just don't like him. It might, hey, I'll go out there. The non-American deal might be the reason.
I've seen some talk that he's never gotten his team to the playoffs. He's never performed in the playoffs, which is true. But I mean, you can't hold one guy accountable for the lack of success on a baseball field.
Yeah.
there's 9 in the lineup, and there's a guy in the mound. You could score 8 runs, but if your pitching staff gives up 12, you lose.
And I think more importantly with baseball, I think it's one of those individual team sports when an individual can do a lot and help the team, but if the team doesn't really support him for the long term, in baseball in particular, with so many games, there's not much you can do because as a pitcher, you're pitching every fifth day. And because he does what he does, he can't play every day. You know what I mean? Every single day. And he's going to get that load management as well for himself. And so baseball is just one of those games, man, to where you really have to have the team around you. We look at the Marlins, that who we just spoke about, and talk about the team they had before they got into the Braves, and we thought everything was working, and everything may just be working. They're just in over their heads against the top teams. But I think, that's one of those examples of, an individual can do well, but the entire team has to have something to bring to the table. The definition of team. And, I don't know. You can't say Ohtani is the reason why they're not winning when he's doing all of these things. He's not stat chasing. He's actually going out there and making things happen and playing the game.
Right. And if I'm a Braves fan, I do not want that All-Star game, that All-Star break. It's coming at the wrong time for my team if I'm a Braves fan. Like, my team is hot. They're rolling. Man, just blow right through that All-Star break.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we'll see. A lot of things change in the second half for some odd reason.
I know a lot.
Some teams get hot. The hot teams get cold. It's crazy.
Or even individual players, because you already know. I mean, I was mentioning last week about how Aaron Judge was one of these guys that just went to the home run derby. He won it and all that. He ruined his swing, according to him. He was not the same player in the second half of the season. And he said he probably wouldn't go into a home run derby again. And so you get these things going down like that. Vlad Guerrero's in this year's home run derby. He hasn't been doing Vlad Guerrero things this year as far as his home runs, but he's still a top player in the major leagues this year. How does going into the derby now, people trying to get some type of incentive to put these guys into the derby for the fans' pleasure for All-Star weekend, but then it hurts the team overall if something does happen like that. You swinging for the fences and you kind of ruin your swing, and now the regular season starts again and you're just not the same guy and your team starts going down. And then whether true or not, the superstition is saying might be the case. This might be the reason why it's happening.
Yeah, I've heard that talk before too, where someone has been hitting high average and a lot of home runs, and they go to the home run derby, and all of a sudden they can't make contact anymore. They're just popping up left and right. I can see how it messes up your swing. I can't remember who it was, but I heard someone hit 91 home runs in one home run derby.
Oh,
so you're talking about, that's a lot of swinging for the fences.
Yep.
That's not, and if that's not your normal swing, it can have an effect on your actual game swing.
Yeah, that's a good point right there. I mean, seriously, because you get some of these people who can make contact and make hard contact, but they're going out there to just put it over the fence now. It's like someone like Arise. We know that Arise, if he was put in a circumstance to hit home runs like meatballs that you get in the home run derby, he can do it because he's a professional. He knows how to get the ball over the fence. That's just not his game. But if he goes out there and hits 30 home runs with that swing, and then he comes back, it's hard to believe that it would not affect his normal swing and the stride he had, throughout the season so far. And even throughout his career, he's been a pretty good hitter.
Yeah, if Arise hit 30 home runs, his average would be under 300.
Oh, yeah, exactly. He has an eye for the ball, and he puts the bat on the ball, and that's the kind of hitter he is. But I was just kind of being, making the comparison, doing a home run derby and talking about the Braves being as good and hot as they are, and going to the other end of the spectrum where the Mets are being as bad as they are, awful, everything you could think of that means just terrible, with all of that money, $340+ million payroll this year.
Yeah, on June 1st, they were 3.5 games out of first place. On July 1st, they were 18.5 games out of first place. So that tells you how rough it was in June for them. Hopefully they have a better July, for Mets fans. But the way the Braves are going, they're not catching.
They're done. I mean, the Mets have this big payroll. The trade deadline's coming. Are they going to be sellers? Man, they need to be sellers. But who's going to buy what they're selling? I mean, Matt Scherzer, you have Justin Verlander, those two just making so much money just between them. And then the rest of the $344 million payroll and zero results. You can't blame Edwin Diaz for being gone. The closer. He has nothing to do with this mess. This is the Mets mess, and we're seeing it right now. I just can't believe there were so many high hopes for this team going into the season to end like this. I mean, I thought the big move was Buck Showalter showing up. I thought that would be the move. Now that they're screaming for his head, Buck Showalter.
Yeah, we mentioned Buck's an old schooler, and maybe the younger generation guys just not buying what he's selling.
You know what? If there ever was an example that if this is the case of young guys not taking to an older coach or older manager, this is definitely it because they changed so much even from last season till now. One of the worst teams in the majors, their record's not showing it directly. If you just watch them play, that's showing it. Looking at the way they lose, that's showing it. I mean, every which way. The Mets are just a pretty bad team. And speaking of bad teams, hey, they share the same city right now, the Yankees. You go from a no-hitter of actually a complete game, the 24th of all time, the fourth in franchise history, to almost getting no-hit yourself yesterday against the Cardinals. Jordan Montgomery throwing it. And it wasn't even really a dominant performance as he had 6 strikeouts and only 3 walks. But it's still the Yankees striking out and not doing well and losing another game. I know that was my little diatribe for that. But
yeah, but I see yours and I'll raise you. White Sox lost 2 out of 3 to the A's.
The A's.
Yes.
Oh my! See, we're living in a bizarre world. I don't know what the deal is. See, in New York, it's supposedly not acceptable for the Yankees to lose. Even when the Yankees lose, it's just not acceptable. You can go back to the 80s when they didn't win anything, but every year, everyone thought they were going to win something and didn't do it until 96. And it's been a long time since we won a championship this time around, for Yankee standards. And you have this. You win one, lose one. You have something historic happens. You're hoping that this is the reason why things will get better. And we're back to square one, losing games, whether it's at Yankee Stadium or on the road. It doesn't matter.
So I have a question for you because it's only happened once, right? How do New York Yankee fans react, or how did they react when the Mets won the World Series?
See, I was up there for that one. For the second one, the first one, I was in junior high school, middle school for the people in the South. But when I remember in '86 when the Mets won, I hated it. Our school trip was the Mets parade. And we were like 4 other dudes in the class, the only ones who didn't go. We were like, no way we're going there.
Ditched it, right?
We stayed in the class. And
it would have been a ditch day for me.
Yeah. I mean, hey, the whole school, they was like, hey, the trip for the entire school was to go to the Mets parade, and they did. Now, I just left New York when the Mets played the Yankees in the Subway Series, and that was awesome just knowing that they were beating them up the way they did. But yeah, look, if you're a Yankee fan like myself, I look at the Mets as just a little brother out there, the little JV. You like to see him do well, but not too well to where they take away from you. But, you can live with it. So the Mets, I don't look at them ever as a threat. And when they start doing things or get players I want or wish I would have had, I don't complain about it too often because they will ultimately still be the Mets. And so it doesn't matter. They're not getting another championship for quite some time, if at all. New York Yankee fans, it's like the lion doesn't worry about what the sheep thinks. He just sees dinner. That's it.
And just a quick word to those Ellie De La Cruz lovers complaining why he didn't make the All-Star team. He's only played 20, 22, 23
exactly.
games.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, he'll have his time. If he plays well enough next year, he'll be on the team.
Exactly. And that's
just enjoy what he's doing.
You know what? He may be on the team next year because he didn't get on this year. So he may play even worse next season and get a chance to go to the All-Star game anyway. People are going to do the popularity contest with him. Of course, it has phases now, but they're going to do the popularity contest with him. So even if he's not playing as well this year as he played next year as he played this year, he may still get on anyway. So, but I think the way he's looking, the way his trajectory is, he's going to be a perennial all-star anyways. I mean, I like to see it, a young guy coming through the pipeline, knowing baseball is taken care of for the next several years with those types of players out there. I can live with it. And another thing I can't live with was what happened this past Saturday with that heavyweight boxing between Jared Anderson and Charles Martin, man. I mean, I can't even get up for the heavyweights if it's not Deontay Wilder, if it's not Tyson Fury, if it's not Anthony Joshua or Usyk. I just can't really get up for heavyweight boxing. It's boring. the physical appeal, the aesthetics just don't look good.
Yeah, I don't want to bash Anderson, but I saw him fight in the past. I watched his fights and he didn't show me much. So when I heard he was fighting Saturday, I was like, let's see what else is on. I didn't watch it all. And I heard it was an uneventful
Yep,
fight. And
yep.
so I asked you, did I miss anything? You said no. I was like,
No,
okay, cool.
yeah, and I'm you know what when people I think people are trying to force feed Americans the next top heavyweight. You know when Mike came through the scene, Mike Tyson came through the scene. I mean, he did things in the ring that made you stand up. No one forced him down our throats. He was not an Olympian. He didn't come with any, hoopla and flair. He just stepped on the scene, blasting dudes, and that's how he got our attention. They're always trying to talk about a guy now before we see them or we saw just a little bit of them and trying to add to the story, whether it's the off the out of the ring storyline or things that they believe we might not know about them. And then you see them and you're disappointed. And I've seen Jared Anderson fight before, and I was like, you know what? There's nothing that really stands out about him other than he has decent hand speed for a heavyweight. I mean, his physique is not as bad as heavyweights we've seen. But this past Saturday fight, even though it was against a former champion who won a vacant title, and Charles Martin, a southpaw, he just didn't look good. I know people saying, "Man, give him a chance, give him a chance." I know when I see a special fight, he's not it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in the eyeball test.
Yes. Yep.
And like I mentioned, he didn't show me much, and so I don't expect much from him. But
Nope.
you touched on it earlier with these NBA contracts. Why would anybody over 6'2", 6'3", not try and be a basketball player?
I'm
Why
serious.
why get punched in the face?
It's
So I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna get another great American heavyweight boxer.
I just don't see it. And I know another thing I don't even want to hear about anymore about, well, they're playing basketball now. Trust me. We've seen these guys. Imagine LeBron having a reason to flop if he chose boxing. Having a reason to flop this time. Just touch him, drop. Instructions, drop. Look at them tough, drop. You know what I mean? It's a completely different animal being in that boxing ring.
I'm
Basketball,
getting
boxing.
visions of Bruce Seldon versus Mike Tyson.
Exactly. When Burt Sugar told me that this was the first fight where he saw the fighter had glass hair. He didn't have glass skin. He had a glass hair. He got hit in the hair and he died. He just went out like a light. And I ran into one of Bruce Seldon's friends down here a couple of years ago. He tried to defend him. No, he wasn't scared of Mike. He just, they told him to take a dive. No, they didn't, man. No one told him to take a dive. No one. But that's a friend for you.
You saw Bruce Seldon fight before that night. I'm sure you weren't expecting him to.
No way. I saw him
opposition.
against Joe Hip. Joe Hip. Joe Hip was a bigger name back in the day when he was coming up, and Bruce Seldon put together a spectacular boxing performance against him. In fact, for his physique, you would think that he's a slugger. His jab was working overtime that day. I met Bruce Seldon when he was 10-0. He was in Ring Magazine at least at 10-0. Back in 1990, he stopped by in Atlantic City, a fight that I was at. I was just 18, so you can date me if you want. I was just 18 at the time in Atlantic City. That was at Trump Castle, of all places. He stepped in. I met Joe Frazier there as well. And, he was giving autographs because people saw him in the Ring magazines as one of the rising prospects. And I thought he would be one of those guys until he wasn't one of those guys. So Bruce Seldon, I mean, whatever. This way, he had a nice career. He became a champ. Can't be mad with that. His son's boxing now. So, and speaking of sons, somebody's about to get sunned in September. Canelo Alvarez has chosen to fight Jamal Charlo, not the brother, at 168 pounds. The little brother little brother at 154 pounds has to move up to fight him. What are your thoughts on this? I know you once told him to do hide and seek with his balls. This time around, what is it?
Are Charlo's belts going to be on the line too?
No. Well, when they changed, the reason why Canelo probably did it, the same reason why he doesn't want the Bivol fight to be at 168. He wants to win Bivol's belt, but he doesn't want Bivol to win his belt. But in this one, no, moving up from 154, Charlo's not taking any risk in losing his belt. He's just risking his health and getting money.
I think it's typical Canelo. He's a diva. He wants the most money for the easiest fights. And Why take a risk against Bevo, who whipped his ass already, or better Biev, or the bigger Charlo, who might be better equipped to fight him, even though he's been off for 2 years. I mean, either way, he's going to fight one brother who's been off, going to be rusty, or the other brother who hasn't fought in 1 year. It's not like he's been active,
Yeah.
and he's been fighting at 2 weights below Canelo. So, I
Well,
mean, you want to call him a cherry picker? I think there's evidence.
Well, in all fairness, I guess if there's fairness there, Jamel Charlo has been said to have issues right now in his personal life. I think that also includes perhaps a divorce or some type of situation family-wise like that. And it could be a distraction for a fight this big. I talked about that before Tio had fought Josh Taylor. I didn't know that he was going through this thing with his wife, divorce and then going through the court system dealing with his kid. That can bother a fighter. I've seen it up front. So if that is the case with Charlo, I can see that it is a reality. But for him to choose his little brother, man, come on, little brother at 154.
You see Tim Zoo's reaction?
No, I haven't heard his reaction yet.
I don't know if it was a tweet or a statement, but he said Canelo ducks Bevo and Charlo ducks Zoo.
I don't know that, man.
I don't know, but you mentioned his out of the ring issues. He hasn't fought in a year. Is PBC cashing out?
I don't know, but as far as Zoo goes, man, you know what? A fighter that moves up to fight a dangerous fighter, he's not ducking anyone.
No, I'm just telling you what he said.
Oh yeah, I can understand because boxing people say a lot of things.
But from PBC's point of view, Tim Zoo did have that impressive victory recently, and
he did.
Why have him fight Zoo, take that risk, and possibly losing to Zoo, who's not the biggest name out there,
money,
when you can put him with Canelo and cash him out, and he still has his belts, and you can come back and make the Zoo fight later.
Well, it's the money. You're going to make much more fighting Canelo than he would have made fighting Zhu, whether it was in Australia or here in the U.S. He would have made much more money. In boxing, the prize fighter wants the biggest prize, and so he's going to go up there, risk life and limb. And I believe, tell you what, man, I think Charlo may be a live dog, even as a smaller fighter. After seeing what had happened with the John Ryder fight with Canelo, we'll give our analysis as the fight gets closer.
Yeah, if he has his quickness and reflexes still, he's going to cause problems.
Yeah.
I mean, even before he got knocked out, Amir Khan was doing well. It was just a matter of time for him. If Charlo can take Canelo's punch, well, then it's going to be very interesting going down the stretch.
Yeah, and Canelo will wear you down, but if you can fight Canelo and move and keep him pivoting, his feet aren't that fast, but he's still pretty good at cutting off the ring, even with slow feet. He just plods you and he puts that mental pressure on you. We've seen Caleb Plant do the same thing. And in this fight here, Charlo is 5'11". Canelo's 5'8". So that reach and that height, that still can pose a problem if he can't get in. We've seen what height has done when Bevo was the guy shooting the offense out there. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't bully him by hitting him in the shoulders and hitting him on the arms, like he did Caleb Plant or all the other fighters that he tried to fight and kind of boost him up like that. We'll find out, and we'll get to that point sooner or later. So that's calling it a day.
Have you seen the undercard?
Isn't that no? I'm thinking about the other undercard where Pitbull's on the undercard, Pitbull Cruz. No, I haven't seen the undercard of this one.
Oh no, you know what? I think I am thinking of the Spence Crawford.
Oh, okay, because that's gonna be if Pitbull Cruz is on the undercard, which he is, it's worth watching the card because you're gonna get something good from him before you get to where you're getting something good.
That's one fight. Showtime's over here tweeting the undercard is stacked. It's not. No, it's not. It's not.
Well, I
can't even remember. You see, I confused the two fights. That the undercard is not stacked. Don't believe that bullshit narrative.
Well, they want that $89. You know what I mean? That's what they want. They want you to do that $89 blindly. They want to be able to have the headline.
Get your friends together, have them pitch in. Don't spend $90 on your own.
You better have some friends and start making them soon. Get some friends. Go to some of these bars or something. See if we get a bunch of boxing people. Go on Facebook, make a friendship out there. Be able to do that. So with that all said, hey, we're coming to a conclusion on the 20th episode of the Sports Bag Bros podcast. Travis, he's biased. I thank you for joining us. And yes, on the 4th of July, we're going to put something out there a little early than usual, but it will be coming out. So we'll continue the streak. See ya.
See you tomorrow morning.